Hey guys, welcome to the pilot of a new show from the Students of S.H.I.E.L.D. sort of.
Whatever the title is going to be, I guess we'll be on a rotating basis because we don't even know yet.
Well, actually, I titled this live stream "Comics the Show" Episode 1.
I kind of love it, but can you make it comics COMIX?
I can change that. But next episode, it might be a different show. Tune in next time to
Content
see.
will be the same. Just the name will be different.
Yeah. So the concept for this show is it's just a weekly, at least that's the goal. It may be a weekly show where we talk about comics that come out, and also maybe a little bit of news, maybe a little bit of rambling and random discussion.
So like every other weekly comic show you've ever seen.
Yep. We're jumping on the bandwagon. We've got some inspirations. We're not going to say them, or maybe we will. And what are we doing first? Oh, wait, what are our names?
Oh, I'm Mike, but you know me, and we know you from the Saga of the Clone Saga.
Yeah, and I'm Vincent, and you know us because we're basically the only people who make videos for this channel. For this channel, the Students of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is the Penn State Marvel Club, and we have graduated from college, so we are officially sad old men in the target demographic of comic books.
What a way to live.
Yes. So what are we going to tackle first?
Well, you have an unboxing for us, don't you?
Okay, yeah. So, well, it's not really I don't actually have a box. It's more like a haul. So I went to the comic store today.
That's what it's called, the comic store.
I picked up 4 books. It's actually called Fat Jack's Comic Crypt, and it's on Sansom Street in Philadelphia. I think the cross street is 21st, like 21st and Sansom or so. And you should, if you're in the Philadelphia area, you should go there and buy some books because they kind of need the help. So I bought 4 books there today. I bought Venom Space Knight Volume 1 because it was on sale. Not a crazy, well, actually, no, it's a good sale, pretty much. So the cover price on this is $18, and I paid $10.
That's not bad.
And this is the finale series of Flash Thompson as Agent Venom.
Is that Cullen Bunn?
No, this is after Cullen Bunn. Cullen Bunn did the era where he was in Philly. This is basically where he's a ripoff of Nova or Green Lantern, because this follows because Agent Venom was a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy under Brian Bendis for some reason, and Bendis retconned the symbiotes to explain that they're basically Green Lantern rings,
which totally doesn't make sense. As here, this is how we're going to connect the shows, because we read Planet of the Symbiotes on Saga of the Clone Saga, and that don't make any sense.
Yeah, and also just, I mean, you can argue about like why Venom is a dick, but also just the entire history of Venom with Eddie Brock. But yeah, I fucking hate that. But Robbie Thompson, who's kind of a journeyman Spider-Man writer on like spin-off books, he wrote this series. It's only like 12 issues or something. It's 2 trades where Venom is in space, and it's drawn by Ariel Olivetti, who I'm kind of mixed on, but he can potentially be really fun. And I've heard half decent things about this. I just really love Agent Venom, so I'm happy to find that cheap. Now we have Spider-Man Hobgoblin Lives, and this is a miniseries, a 3-issue miniseries, and then a 3-issue arc from Spectacular Spider-Man, written by Roger Stern. But this is late 90s. This is like 1998 or something. It's around the Next Chapter era, which we read a little bit of on Clone Saga. And this is Roger Stern basically like decade later, almost 2 decades later, fixing the Hobgoblin stuff to the best of his abilities.
Right.
Not a very essential story. And then more Spider-Man.
I guess it is if you like Roger Stern's era on Spider-Man, though.
Yeah, but it's 20 years later and continuity mess. Um, now we have Spider-Man 2099 Classic Volume 1.
Well, again,
And
only 2 trades of that were ever published.
no, actually, so there were initially 3. The third one has like a kind of weird name. I think they were trying to distract from the fact that it was Volume 3 because maybe the sales weren't so strong. So they named it after the crossover, which takes up most of it.
Okay.
And then Classic Volume 4 came out years later, but then there was no sign of 5. But then 5 is coming out soon, but instead of calling it Spider-Man 2099 Classic Volume 5, they're calling it like Spider-Man 2099 versus Venom.
Oh my
To
god.
tie in with the movie hype and pretend that it's not a 5th volume, try and boost the sales. And after that, they would need, I think, like one more trade to finish the Peter David run, and they would probably just squeeze everything to finish the whole run. But this is the first 10 issues, and I paid full price for this, $25, because the first 2 volumes are out of print, and I just discovered that recently. So I'll be on the lookout for volume 2. I like Spider-Man 2099. It's not like amazing.
I think it's okay. I read the first few issues, but I haven't read them like since I was a kid.
Yeah, I had some of the early back issues when I was a kid for some reason.
I had like 1, 2, and 3. I don't know why I had those.
Yeah, I never had 1. I think I had 2. And now I have Thor Epic Collection Volume 1, The God of Thunder, and also paid full price for this, which is it's an Epic Collection, not
Big
the
spender today, weren't you?
a little bit, because for Epic Collection Volume 1 and I believe either 3 or 4, whichever one to Wake the Mangog are, for this exact moment are out of print and are kind of rising in price. And I kind of regret, well, I don't really regret, but
I thought you had the omnibuses.
no, I don't. It's because the first Thor omnibus is super out of print, and I didn't get that when it came out or anything.
Right.
It would have killed me to have 2 and 3. I was looking for the first one for a while, but whatever. Epics are fine. But this was kind of a stupid purchase because it's Thor Epic Collection Volume 1. It's Stan Lee and Jack Kirby art. They're going to reprint this eventually,
Yeah.
but whatever. And now, not from my comic shop, I ordered from Amazon. A little bit of a theme here. These books are not out of print, but they're out of stock on like in stock trades and some of the common sites online. And so right here we have Tales of the Batman by Len Wein and
That was out of print.
Tales of the Batman by Archie Goodwin. And these are 70s era Batman stories. So to my knowledge, I read a lot of reviews and stuff, and I've like have a stupid spreadsheet about Batman shit. And so to my knowledge, both of these take place. So the 70s, earlier 70s is the Dennis O'Neil, Frank Robbins, and Neil Adams stuff.
Right.
Where like Carmine Infantino entered the Silver Age with Batman, redesigned the costume, and moved it away from like full on crazy Silver Age stuff. And then Dennis O'Neil made him like more dark and more serious and stuff like that. And then after that stuff is the Steve Englehart, Marshall Rogers, Strange Apparitions kind of era.
Strange Apparitions and Dark Detective 2.
And that I would, it has a different flavor and is known for different things, but it's still kind of the like a little darker Neil Adams era Batman. And then these are both after that, but to my knowledge, they kind of like slightly pulled back on some of the darkness, and so you get a little bit of like a more lighter Batman from like the late 70s through the early 90s, when basically Dennis O'Neil retakes over Batman, and Chuck Dixon and all that stuff.
Well, O'Neil was the editor of the time. So.
Yeah. And so this Len Wein book, it's got all kinds of stuff, but it also has the I think it's 3-issue miniseries called The Untold Legend of the Batman or something. And it was DC's second ever official miniseries. The first one was like a Superman Phantom Zone thing. And it was supposed to be drawn by John Byrne in a brief break period during his X-Men or something like that.
Yeah.
And but basically from what John Byrne claims is DC kind of fucked him over. So he only penciled the first issue, and Jim Aparo drew the rest. And then that miniseries, even though like the Len Wein's the bulk of this is 70s, I think that miniseries is like 80 or early 80s. And then of course year one happened like less than 5 years later. So that miniseries doesn't really matter, but it's kind of interesting. And then the big selling
point of getting the Len Wein book for a really long time.
Yeah, I've been doing more research on these recently, and I have some that I regret buying, and I'm looking to sell, and I've sold a few already, and then I've kind of narrowed down which ones I actually want / need, whatever. And this Archie Goodwin book, the major selling point for this is that includes the entire Manhunter saga with Walt Simonson. So like probably like not a quarter, but like a fifth of this book actually doesn't have Batman on the pages, because Manhunter was just a backup and detective, but the finale of the story is a team up with Batman.
Which you can get that book, or you can get the really, really flimsy, like gold painted, like trade of it. It's more like the size of one of those like Walmart super specials, really, than anything else.
Yeah, but I think that old book's really cool with the gold. I'm pretty sure I thought I had it, so I gotta find it. And
I got it at Ollie's when we found it there.
Yeah. So that was my haul. Mike, have you picked up any major stuff recently?
Any major stuff?
Or just stuff?
No. I mean, last time I bought a trade was I guess I got the last time I was at Ollie's, I picked up some Robin stuff. I got the volumes 1 and 3 of the Chuck Dixon Robin series with Tim Drake.
Yep. All right. So now we're gonna just real quick run through some news and comment on it. Both Marvel and DC, they're hyping up events.
Well, we're gearing up for the summer, which is event time.
Yes. Marvel has War of the Realms, which is supposed to be a Thor event, possibly the finale of Jason Aaron's Thor run. I think that's the major question for me at the end of this. But Marvel is hyping it up as like one of their super mega giant crossovers where every fucking character has to get involved. And
yeah, like Daredevil's fighting as Guardians. I hate it.
Yeah, a lot of it today they announced. There's like 3 one-shots, several mini-series, and some of them are like half interesting gimmicks, but a lot of them anger me. And it's
kind of where I'm at as well.
And it's just way too much in general. And almost every book almost all the ongoings are having at least one issue tie-in. Like Amazing Spider-Man, I believe, is having a fill-in, and a lot of these tie-ins within the ongoings are by guest creative teams, and some of them they're trying to hype like it's actually cool. Like I think Gail Simone is writing I think the Iron Man one shot, maybe the Iron Man tie-in might be Gail Simone or something. But like the Amazing Spider-Man one is written by Sean Ryan, who wrote like the awkward 3-issue tie-ins that ended the Spectacular title, which tied into Spider-Geddon. And so it's just like it's gonna fuck up all these trades. It's gonna be an issue in the middle of the
It's gonna be
trade.
like when Secret Empire happened, and like every book had a book that was labeled Secret Empire or Civil War Two.
Yeah, it's awful because Secret Empire, Civil War II, and Secret Empire, Marvel got a ton of backlash. I mean, Secret Empire was a little different kind of backlash, but Marvel got a ton of backlash for the event fatigue, and there was a lot of discussion about it. And Marvel was like, "We're not going to do it for a year." And maybe they like technically
That's
followed
such
that.
an empty promise at this point, though. They always say that, and they never
Yeah.
stick to it.
I mean, I think they may have technically like went through with it, but it's like now that you pass that mark, you're going to come back with like the most annoying one yet. And so I mean, I haven't been following Thor very closely for a long time, but I just don't really care. If it was a miniseries, which Thor was in, and maybe all the characters, but just in that miniseries, whatever. But I'll say this: I'm not buying 10 trades for War of the Realms.
No, you can
And
all have it in a very nice, oversized hardcover and/or omnibus soon after, though. I guarantee it.
yeah, on the DC side, they're looking to rip off Marvel Zombies, I guess.
Maybe. I mean, all we have is the teaser. That's it.
Yeah, hashtag deceased. Who knows?
What's her name?
I think who is it? Is it like Cullen Bunn or someone? I forget who it is.
I forget who it is.
And then the I think more pressing thing is Year of the Villain, which Villain Month was already terrible. So I don't know why we want a Year of the Villain.
I feel like we just did a Year of the Villain thing. That's the problem.
Oh, deceased is Tom Taylor, the guy who wrote Injustice. So I'm sure it'll be great.
People love those Injustice books, though. They keep selling.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, same with Year of the Villain. I don't like how the companies are in like somewhat recent memory. They're focusing a lot on the villains, putting them in starring roles and things.
They're focusing on the villains, but we're still having heroes fighting heroes. That's the problem.
Yeah. But like Justice League has those James Tynion, like intermittent issues starring the League of Supervillains, League of Doom. But whatever, I don't care. Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're teaming up for a finale miniseries to the trilogy of miniseries from James Tynion and Freddie Williams. And they're also going to be in a movie together, which
sounds fun. I've heard good things about those books. I know they were popular enough that they did not only did the regular DC universe do one, but specifically Batman the animated series and the Turtles also had a crossover.
Yeah. I've never been huge on the Turtles. I didn't watch TV or play with toys growing up.
Yeah, which is why you don't have a connection to the Turtles.
Yes. Archie had some news. There's a Jughead's Time Police. I think it's called Time Police. Jughead's Time Police series. And I think that's some like it's one of those weird old things like when Archie becomes Pureheart the Powerful as a superhero, stuff like that. And Nick Spencer's Archie ongoing is getting retitled Archie and Sabrina for a few issues. And I think they're renumbering it, but then they'll probably switch back to the old numbering. I don't know.
You've read an Archie comic book more recently than I have.
I don't know if you're supposed to be referencing something. Archie, they put out some decent
I'm
comics.
not referencing it. I'm just saying I know you've read an Archie comic book more recently than I have.
That's probably true. Archie puts out some decent books right now. I'm not up to date on the like new Riverdale books. I am up to date on the Archie horror books. The two ones I care about. because they never come out, so it's very easy to be up to date. And I wish they would put out more Red/Black Circle stuff with their superheroes.
And I think that's all it is for the news this week, right?
Well, I've got two little things. We'll just run through.
Two side things.
Star Wars, Marvel is bringing back the original series with a one shot, which doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Oh, it's just for a one shot?
Well, yeah, it's just a one shot, which will be number 108 or whatever the number is.
So does that mean, because all of the Star Wars comics that Marvel's been doing, those are canon? So does that mean the original Marvel stuff is now canon? Is Jackson now canon?
I think Jackson was made canon in like one of the like IDW kids books recently, and I think he may have had like a cameo in Rebels or something. I think he is officially canon again, but the old Marvel comics are not anymore. To my knowledge.
They might be now.
I don't know. DC has canceled a bunch of trades and also Batman Damn #3 and stuff like that.
Well, not according to Brian Azzarello.
Well, they canceled the current solicitation, but marked most of them as being resolicited at a later date. So we will hold them to that promise, especially on certain books. Included were New Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 4, which I really want.
I mean, I'm sure we'll get that.
Also, they canceled, and not to be resolicited, Mark Russell's Vertigo book Second Coming, and he's shopping that around, so we'll see where that ends up. And
the big cancellations were what? The Hush Omnibus and the Detective Comics Before Batman Omnibuses also got canned.
Yeah, but those are not marked as being resolicited.
Right.
And then DC has finally found a writer for Nightwing, potentially. They kicked I don't even remember who it was. Who was it?
Who started on the book? Let's see if we can name every single writer from Rebirth that's been on that book.
Well, it was Tim Seeley, and then
Sam Percy?
Sam Humphries. And then it was Ben Percy. And Ben Percy had to tie in with Tom King getting shot in the head thing, and then was removed from the book.
And then it was Scott Lobdell.
Yeah, they brought in Scott Lobdell, and Fabian Nicieza, I believe, helped him on a few issues. And then they were supposed to bring in, I think his name's Eric Esquivel, to co-write it initially and probably take over from Lobdell. But he kind of had some inappropriate relations with women. And so DC pulled him from the book literally like the day before the Previews magazine came out, and his name is still in that Previews magazine. And now they finally found their guy. His name is Zach Kaplan. He's going to be co-writing with Scott Lobdell and probably take over. And he's some like very small guy, so I don't really know anything about him whatsoever.
All power to him to try to make that book good again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not dissing him. I hope that.
Oh no, you're not. I'm just all the power to you, because I know the fan perception right now is that book is not good, and it's been in horrible kind of whatever the word is, just turnover. Yeah, just turnover.
They just really need to get out of this stupid status quo. Just tell Nightwing stories.
What, you don't like Rick Grayson?
No. All right. So now the meat of the show, however many minutes later, we're going to talk about the comic books that came out this week, or at least a select few of them.
Yeah, if you've stuck with us this long, then congrats. This is the main event.
Yeah, which ones are we talking about?
Let's talk about DC's releases this week. So, the first book I read from DC this week was Detective Comics number 998 by Pete Tomasi and then drawn by Doug Mankey. So as the countdown to 1,000 continues, which is weird because they did not do that for Action Comics. There's a giant banner across the book that says "Countdown to 1,000."
Yeah, I like it. That's cool.
So I guess first off, have you been keeping up with this series, Vince?
No, I just know the basics that something's happening and his like mentors are being hunted or something.
Okay,
Or
did you
like,
go back? So this was the first issue you read.
yes.
Okay. Um, someone like this weird creature entity has been hunting down Batman's former teachers and mentors. And Batman is basically, we're kind of getting a globe-trotting Batman adventure as he's been going around trying to prevent before they happen. Dr. Leslie Tompkins was killed. That was the initial first thing. And then Alfred was hit with a sword. So Damian is in the Batcave looking after Alfred while Bruce is going around globe-trotting. And this issue brings us to, on the cover it says Hellbat and Hellfire. So Jason Blood, Etrigan, is teaming up with Batman this time. And then we open up the issue as the last issue ended with Batman going after Hugo Strange because he thinks he's the one who made this creature, which I give Tomas prop for this because he connects this back to I think Night of the Monster Men, where Strange was making a bunch of clones and stuff.
Yeah, there's an editor's note, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, like I love to see that. And I've been liking this Batman run a lot. But he goes to Jason Blood because that's the next target, and then Batman gets a giant Hellbat suit, which this thing made its debut in Snyder and Capullo's run, right? I feel like that's when it did.
I don't know. I
Or
was
like,
I wasn't sure.
um,
I mean, it seems like a
it's
Snyder.
not the same suit, but a suit like this. But so Batman gets in his giant mech armor and fights this giant lizard thing, and then he beats it, and then he flies back, and then to visit Cyborg's dad because apparently he was a mentor to Batman as well. That's the first time I've ever seen anything like this. But it's revealed that it's all hologram, and the evil Bruce Wayne kid from Tom King's Batman run is behind everything. So I'm interested to see how this goes because this is the first time we've seen this kid since the Tom King's one-off issue after I think it was like Batman 26 or somewhere between 26 and 28. We saw this kid beforehand, where this kid was obsessed.
Is he referred to as Kid Hush? I saw a few people.
Yeah, it's kind of the same. This kid was he's obsessed with Bruce Wayne's parents' death, and he wants to be Bruce Wayne. So he orchestrated his parents' death and stuff. So that's where I guess the Kid Hush connection comes from. But I thought this was neat. It's the since someone's picking up the pieces from that story and going with this. So I think I'm assuming this arc's going to be done within the next issue because that'll be $9.99, and I know as far as what we're getting from Tomasi on 1000 is the start of Arkham Knight's introduction into the DC universe.
So, yeah, you covered it pretty much. I had a few things. I think the main cover is great. On the cover at least, there's a nice sheen on the colors, and so Etrigan just looks amazing. The variant cover for this issue is by Gary Frank, and it's kind of solid. I like how Gary Frank's Batman isn't like this hulking beast.
No, he looks like a guy.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not really missing Batman Earth One at all.
My favorite thing about the Earth One costume was the no white eye slits. I thought that was different.
Yeah. I liked how in this issue Batman says criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot at some point.
Yeah, he does.
From Detective 27. And the part with Silas Stone like really threw me off.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere for me.
As far as I know, this is totally retcon. But well, retcon, it's not. I mean, it's a new introduction to the origin story. It's not. You could argue it's not technically a retcon, but to me, it feels kind of forced. And I like my version of Batman as much of a self-made man as possible, besides obviously his wealth. And I don't like fully like the Bat God. That's not what I'm saying, but like I just like Batman like making himself. And I don't think a grappling gun is this super high-tech gadget thing that a billionaire genius would need help on.
I also don't think Silas Stone is the one that would build it. He obviously, like, you have Lucius Fox. I'm surprised this
Yeah.
wasn't Lucius Fox.
Well, in most in most of the continuity, he gets Lucius like way after he becomes Batman, right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the Nolan movies have been pretty popularized the notion that Lucius has kind of always been there now. But to I guess in my head canon, I think Bruce travels the world for 7 years and learns and masters all forms of stuff, and he makes at least the initial versions of the gadgets, and then Lucius comes in later.
Yeah. What's his like primary mentor figure that they use that no one uses the fake out for Roz?
Henry Descartes.
Yeah, so Henry Descartes was introduced in a story called Blind Justice, I believe,
Yeah,
which was written by the screenwriter of Batman or Batman Returns. And that was like it was an arc in like around the time of Batman and Batman Returns. And that was the introduction of Henry Descartes. And before that, it was just like, all right, Batman taught himself to be Batman. And
yeah, and then later it became like you got characters like Sensei, and I liked Batman the Animated Series gave us him learning how to escape out of stuff with Zatara.
Yeah,
which was cool.
the other thing is like, all right, whatever, Silas Stone helped you make a stupid grappling gun. But how many other superheroes in the DC universe have grappling guns? And they're not billionaire geniuses with mentors.
Right.
I think it's kind of dumb. Also, I'm pretty sure Lucius Fox is created by Len Wein in this book. I'm not certain. But I like this book.
It's been solid. I've only had a few issues with it. I thought like the first couple issues there was just like some overly brutal moments with Batman as he like shuts off all the lights in Arkham and just like beats the crap out of all the villains for information. I was like, that's a little bit much. But no, I mean Tomasi's a guy who has a great voice for Batman and a great voice for Superman, and kind of a one of those go-to guys that can kind of write anyone in the DC universe. So having him be back on Batman and even connecting stuff from his Batman and Robin run in this run, because Henry Descartes does show up, and it was Damian who killed Henry Descartes' son in Batman and Robin. So they addressed some of that here, and that was like the last issue before this one.
On that exact note, I looked it up real quick, and the Hellbat suit is from Batman and Robin number 33. So that's
okay.
a Tomasi thing, actually.
All right.
It was from the Robin Rises arc, which I think is the arc when he comes back alive and has superpowers shortly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like how Tomasi's kind of weaving in and picking up from the last time he did Batman, and also picking up from Tom King stuff. It's about what like the perfect situation for a writer of a comic.
And then I mean I can't think of a better guy to try to incorporate Arkham Knight into the DCU. So I'm kind of I'm not eagerly awaiting to see how it goes, but I feel like it'll most likely be in good hands with him. I'm sure. I mean, when we get Detective 1000, we're obviously going to cover that on the show. But when we get there, we get there. Until then, this is only 998, and we have 999 to go. So, Vince, you want to talk about our next DC book, Flash 64?
So that book, written by Josh Williamson, drawn by Rafa Sandoval, and the credits in, I think, all these DC books, for some reason, they're putting them at the back of the books now, which I don't really like. And also,
their names are on the bottom corners.
Yeah, specifically on Flash, everyone besides the writer and the artist are like in a significantly smaller font. It's really weird. Main cover for this is by Chris Burnham, and it's pretty good. The Tom Rainey variant, I think the Tom Rainey variant is kind of rough.
Yeah.
So this is part 2 of The Price.
Yeah.
And this is Josh Williamson for the second time after The Button, coming in and doing a crossover between Flash and Batman while Tom King does whatever he's doing. which in this case is Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah, well, this crossover relates to Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah. So Gotham Girl is doing something stupid with Bane,
With
and
Venom. Yeah.
she's using Venom to like resurrect corpses and put them in her costume.
Well,
And
that's her brother's costume.
yeah,
Gotham.
this issue opens with Bruce and Barry basically silently measuring their dicks against each other. That's that's the messed up way to put it, but
Yeah.
they're like, I don't know who's the better detective. I don't know who's blah blah. And I actually like it though. I think it's
I thought, yeah, it was fine. The problem with this crossover is that number one, it comes in an arc that I thought was a lot more interesting what King was doing with the Nightmares arc. And two, this is a crossover to a crossover that's happening.
yeah. But their relationship is uneasy right now due to Wally's death. That's looming in the background. And to try and lighten the mood, Barry makes a reference to an old case they had. And it's either totally made up and this is just coincidence, but it is very close in description to Brave and the Bold 194 from 1983 by Mike Barr and Carmine Infantino, where they fight the villain mentioned together on an island. But also Rainbow Raider was in that story, and they don't mention him here, and I feel like that's worth mentioning. So probably just a coincidence.
I feel like it was weird when Batman uses the expression "no duh, Sherlock" and then says he got it from Damien.
Yeah, that's the other thing, because Batman met Sherlock Holmes in Detective Comics 572,
Yeah.
and that would have been funny if they acknowledged that, but it's just ruined by saying he picked it up from Damien.
Which, if he got it from anyone, he got it from Dick.
Yeah. And then there's a great awkward scene where Barry asks about how Selena is and their wedding.
Yeah. I guess no one knows other than maybe Superman and Wonder Woman, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I guess they haven't acknowledged that in Justice League or anything like that. Trinity's canceled, but again, that's Superman and Wonder Woman. But it's kind of interesting, but they never got back to that in this issue. But there's still two parts for this crossover, so maybe they'll have the moment to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, also, the weird thing is that Barry Allen can't bring himself to do the autopsy on Wally because of the costume. Like, just take him out of it.
Yeah. Gotham Girl is a fangirl. She's got all kinds of comics art in her lair. And when I saw
what happens is they walk into a trap, which both of them are way too smart to know. Like, this is going to happen.
but when I saw this splash page with all the art, I was like, all right, I got to zoom in here and see if there's any surprises. Like, oh, is there a weird like Starman picture, or like Kate Spencer Manhunter or something like just
Did
in
you
the
notice
corner.
the old Batman Superman logo from the Ed McGuinness
Yeah,
Jeff Lowe era?
yeah, but there's no character-wise. There are no surprises on this page. It's
The
literally just
BVS logo is also in there.
and then while Barry is looking at the stuff, he has emotional memory of Wally. And I like this scene a lot, but he like superimposes his memory, Wally's design for his costume, over Gotham Girl's.
Yeah.
And it's like this retconned Wally Kid Flash costume with too many lines, and it ruined the moment again.
That's the problem. It's our hatred of the current Flash suits that make us. It just sullies any of it for us.
And this memory inspires Barry to question Bruce about something, because he's like, I helped Wally design his suit and you helped Dick and whatever. And he's like, you never asked who helped Gotham Girl? But I don't find that interesting or relevant at all, because it's like,
It's a good question, but like also like not something I would have thought of. So, which Barry just like proceeds to act like Batman is a total idiot for not doing that.
well, it's like kind of a good question, but I think it's also really stupid. It's like
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne and Barry Allen, they didn't ask help from a mentor for costumes, and like 90% of superheroes in the DC universe, they don't have someone older and more experienced help with their costume.
Also, mostly a superhero designs their costume themselves.
Yeah.
So
This was dumb. But
yeah.
they find a lab, there's venom being used in all these bodies, and they find the sanctuary mask thing, like the psychopirate mask.
Yeah.
And Gotham Girl shows up and flies around and shit and resurrects some bodies. And there's
Well, the big thing is Barry asking, did Batman send Gotham Girl to Sanctuary, which he more or less says yes. And so now the big thing is Gotham Girl behind the murders at Sanctuary?
Yeah.
And not Harley or Booster. We don't know yet. But the motivations for Gotham Girl here at this point are she hates Batman because Batman abandoned her. So we have to go back to Batman 24 for this. I believe, since if I remember reading that issue right, he wanted Gotham Girl. He gives Gotham Girl a choice where she can keep being Gotham Girl, or you can leave and live your life. But remember, her superpowers kill her if she uses them. So the way I read it, and I think everyone else read it, was he was gonna, if she wanted to stay and try to be a hero, he was gonna send her off to like train with, I think it was like Lady Shiva or something, so she could like actually learn hand-to-hand combat and not have to rely on her powers. That's how I remember it being. So her going, no, Batman abandoned me, that's just a total retcon and that we didn't get, and it's now a really, really bad villain motivation of just like, oh, you abandoned me. Well, no, I didn't, but I hate you because you abandoned me, so now I'm evil for this reason.
Yeah.
So this has two more issues, and
but then I thought there was a unintentionally interesting part where Bruce is like, Gotham Girl, you're gonna die. Stop flying around and doing stupid shit. And I think Flash chimes in, and then she's like, Flash, that's what heroes do. They die, or like they go down fighting. And I'm like, Barry Allen is the one to tell that or remind him.
Yeah.
Unintentionally meta.
I'm not really enjoying this at all. I kind of hope it wraps up soon.
I didn't think it was that bad. Josh Williamson, his scripting style, it's like kind of retro, and I think like it actually works for Batman and Flash. Like he obviously writes Batman totally different from Tom King,
right?
And I think that's kind of interesting. Like this kind of does feel like Brave and the Bold 194 in 2019.
Well, I like the team up of Batman and Flash working together. Like it is a fun team up.
Yeah.
With both of them being like detectives. So, but yeah. I guess on our next book, Wonder Twins, which is now the third book from this Bendis imprint. This is written by Mark Russell. And who is the artist on this?
Stephen Byrne.
Stephen Byrne. I don't know if I liked this or I didn't. I think this definitely reads like the most, because the whole Wonder Comics imprint is supposed to be like a young adult reader's imprint, garnered towards more younger readers, right? So this definitely read like the most YA of these books. But I still had moments where I laughed out loud and thought some of it was funny. But I'm not a big Wonder Twins fan. Like I never really was a big Super Friends watcher, which is I think that's where they came in. So with that, I don't really have a super long history with the Wonder Twins. I know that they're characters, and they were never part of the DC universe until now, right?
I think they were introduced in Extreme Justice.
Okay.
Or no, I think they were actually, so there was a Super Friends comic book in like the 80s or whatever, and it's technically canon, and right. I believe they were in that, but I don't know that that was canon post-Crisis, and then I think post-Crisis they were brought in Extreme Justice. Well, I get confused because before the Wonder Twins, what were the other two characters without powers? And there was the dog.
That's right. I forget.
But they had two like teenage characters. So I think maybe they were in the Super Friends comic and Zan and Jaina were in Extreme Justice.
Okay.
But I think I think it's a generational thing where like we're too young to have really watched much Super Friends, even on reruns and stuff.
Right.
But also we're not young enough to potentially be the target demographic for this book, at least what DC hopes.
Right.
And so yeah, I have no interest in the Wonder Twins. But the fact that no one has any interest really at all makes sense that they're going to go this jokey route. I thought the Thunderlust stuff, I found that annoying. That was
Yeah, I didn't love that. I liked Superman explaining the Hall of Justice supercomputer though. I thought the cutaway gags to that were pretty funny.
the okay. So there are a few flashbacks after Zan gets his stupid Thunderlust moment. So Bruce Wayne in school writes a poem to the tune of the Bee Gees for a
Right.
girl, which first of all slightly distracting because of course it doesn't work, but in my mind sort of sliding timescale, I still kind of think of Bruce Wayne as being like a 1940s character, and so it's weird to me to like fully think that Bruce Wayne was listening to the Bee Gees as a
Well, yeah, that there's that, and then like if you remember back in Batman Annual 2 from King, he uses a song from the 40s as the kind of the connecting part of the two stories he had in there.
well
So
wasn't that like sort of from Alfred's perspective or something? I
no,
don't
no,
remember.
no, that was just like kind of the underlying thing of the stories. That wasn't from Alfred.
And then in Clark Kent's flashback is fine, but it's super off model. I hate the way this young Clark Kent is drawn. He doesn't look anything like the Silver Age Superboy kind of appearance. He's like chunky,
Right.
looks like a normal kid. He's not the awkward, bumbling Clark Kent.
I liked I liked how Zan wants to try to be on the hockey team, and he's indispensable because since he can turn himself into water, he turns himself into the best ice possible.
Yeah, which I feel like is cheating.
It I mean, it'll be better ice quality than where the Islanders play. So there you go. There.
But the quote unquote villain, Mixie, shows up and they beat him by having the computer play a reverse recording. And
Right.
they question in story like I don't think that's how it works.
It's
I'm not
not. He has to say it, right?
yeah, but I'm not too bothered by this. It's whatever. If Matt was on the show, he should read this issue for sure. Our friend Matt from Clone Saga. But overall, like this is probably what you thought as well. But my conclusion for this was that it's fun, the art is fun, but I honestly just don't care.
Yeah, this isn't for me. As
Like I didn't find it funny enough. There's no real like there's nothing really being said like in most of Mark Russell's books. There's no real relevance to continuity and other DC characters and books. And so it's just skippable,
yeah,
unfortunately.
it.
Um
I think the last of the Wonder Comics books to come out is Dial H, right?
yeah,
So I I mean, as of right now, you read Young Justice yet?
nope. I haven't read.
Okay.
I've
I
only
read
read
the first issue of Young Justice, and I didn't hate it. I think it's okay. I think the second issue really slowed the momentum down on that book. And then Naomi is, I guess, Bendis's pet project, but it's being co-written. But that book's not awful either. But I don't feel like Naomi is a book that's going to be ongoing for more than like 12 issues. I think that's going to have a whole story to tell, and maybe we get a sequel or something out of it. These both seem like ongoings. Dial H will seem like an ongoing, but I don't think these comics are inherently bad though.
yeah.
So let's head over to Marvel. Vince, what happened in Amazing Spider-Man number 15 by Nick Spencer and still being drawn by Chris Botchler for this 2-issue arc?
Well, sort of Botchlo, because he has 5 inkers in this issue, and he needs help coloring when he usually colors himself. On the other hand, the Paulo Rivera cover is gorgeous.
This is a gorgeous cover.
So I did not read part 1, and I'm way behind on this title in general.
Well, I'm all caught up, so.
So I have no idea what this lizard family thing is.
Okay, yeah, I'll explain this. The last issue, MJ and Peter they were invited over to Doc Connor's house, which is in the sewers, they had them over for dinner, and their son, who's now part lizard, they don't want him going out because they don't want the public to be scared of him, but he's just kind of like going through like the teenage thing of like lashing out at his parents and whatnot. So that's the voice being projected onto there.
Well, the wife is a lizard too.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just the lizard family, which
the lizard family now. It's great.
Yeah, it's cool. First of all, I don't like this kid is clearly supposed to be like a teenager, but he's not
drawn that way. He's drawn like he's like 8.
Well, and he has a plush doll of Deadpool, which even if you're 8, I don't know, that's a little.
But he has 2 posters on his wall of She-Hulk and Captain Marvel.
Which again, he's a teenager, and She-Hulk and Captain Marvel. I feel like Nick Spencer or the artist are totally trying to go for the vibe of he looks up to these empowered female characters, but the vibe that comes across is totally that he's like, oh, these are hot superheroes.
Yeah.
To me.
How did you feel about Chris Botchlo's Lizard? I really like his Lizard.
Yeah. The nice throwback to Shed, one of the best Lizard stories. With the kid as well.
Oh no.
But Taskmaster and Black Ant are still going around doing something. They're working for Kraven, and they've captured Rhino. I presume in previous issues they've captured a few other characters.
That we've shown them. The previous issues we've seen them all the other animal-like villains of Spider-Man being captured. The last issue, Aunt May was having dinner with what was I think like a new boyfriend or something, and then he said something that pissed her off, so she left and then went and grabbed this homeless guy named Ned off the street, and she was having dinner with him, and that's where Black Ant and Taskmaster came in and then Rhino, so they kind of just ruined this restaurant, and then Spider-Man's on his way, so that's where we picked up with this part.
Well, what I couldn't tell is the captions were mentioning like a burning building, but the art doesn't make it clear that there's any fire going on at all. It just seems like a collapse. But basically, he saves the people. He wants to like prioritize Aunt May, but it's like, well, she doesn't know he's Spider-Man in this current continuity, and also she's a selfless person. So he really wants to save her first, and also she's sick from the Friendly Neighborhood book or whatever.
But she has not revealed that to Peter yet in this book.
Oh, he doesn't. Yeah, but does he know in general?
I don't think so. I haven't read Friendly Neighborhood, so.
But so he really wants to save her first, but she's like, no, you gotta save everyone else first. And then he finds Ned Leeds, and there's one page, I think it's the coolest page in this book, where they use old art, and it's like art and Romita art and stuff like that. And they copy and paste art, but it's cropped in specific ways, and they make it black and white. And there's like the Ben Day dots and everything. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I also like the panel of just like Ned like clinging onto Spider-Man as he dies.
Yeah. He's alive because clone conspiracy. I don't think he dies. Also, I think like because there's that one page where I was kind of confused. I think Aunt May I think there's a flash forward. Aunt May cleans him up, and they kind of just say goodbye to him.
No. He collapses in Spider-Man's arms. He's dead.
Okay. But he was alive because of clone conspiracy. Because he's not alive; it's a clone.
Yeah, he dies in this after injuries that he got in the ensuing like chaos.
And again, it's kind of interesting that Spencer is like he's not ignoring Slott's run at all. This is referencing clone conspiracy, and then Aunt May is calling back to her status quo from the big time era. And
Well, okay, yeah. She goes and reopens her. She wants to go and reopen Feast, but is this Nick Spencer having this idea, or is this because of this PS4 game and Aunt May worked at Feast, so let's just have her work at Feast again?
I don't know. Could be.
It's one of the two.
But the larger plot that they're building toward is Craven is going to use the stupid Secret Empire shield, Spencer bringing in Secret Empire again, to cover Central Park, and he's going to hunt all these animal villains and probably Spider-Man, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of gearing up for this. I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I hate whatever the hell they're doing with the numbering, where you have two issue 16s and 18s and 19s or whatever.
Yeah,
And the final page, I didn't like the final page of this issue. They integrate like actual photo elements and
it looks like
try and tweak it.
you were looking at Google Earth or something.
I think it looks bad.
It looks weird. I didn't hate it. I like that Spencer's using arcade though.
Yeah, yeah, but the book's good.
This book still continues to be good. I'm looking forward to this Craven thing, and then also Spencer's setting up something with the Lizard's son as he does sneak out to try to go to this party, which I'm imagining he's going to get wrapped up into this somehow as well.
He should be a superhero. He'll be Spider-Man's next sidekick, like Alpha. The Lizard Kid. Kid Lizard.
Kid Lizard.
I'm down.
I'm down with it. Yeah, I mean, this book's it is good, but the whole prioritizing Aunt May thing for me is like at that point, like I just want her dead. Like she offers me nothing at this point. Just let her die. But I guess I'll take the next book, which I really should have tackled Amazing Spider-Man, a Conan book before in my life. So Savage Sword of Conan #1, which has legacy numbering of 236 by Jerry Duggan and Ron Garney, and then Richard
Oh shit!
Isanov.
I didn't notice the legacy numbering. That's awesome.
But it's part one of an all-new Conan novella. Vince,
No. The novella is in the back. I don't know if you
the
saw
novella
that.
is in the back.
Yeah, that's the prose story.
Which awesome that they're doing prose stories for these.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna read it.
I tried to, and I couldn't get into it. Honestly, I'm gonna have to flex this onto you. I've never read a Conan book, and I've only seen bits and pieces from the Schwarzenegger movie.
Okay.
What the hell is going on here? I just know that there's 3 distinct different eras of Conan.
Yeah.
And we're clearly the one before him being king.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Conan fan either. I've read a bit of Conan.
You just bought a giant omnibus of it.
Yeah, but I haven't read it yet. There's not a ton to say here. I think the art by Ron Garney and Isanov is fucking amazing.
It's amazing, but this is I guess this is from him working with Isanov. I've never seen Garney's style look like this before.
Yeah.
I'm used to his era of like when he was drawing Wolverine with Jason Aaron and Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's pretty loose. This is closer to he was doing very similar stuff on Daredevil with Charles Soule, but this is even more looser, and then Isanov brings a whole painterly layer to it with the colors.
Yeah, it looks like it's watercolored.
Yeah, it's really cool. First, we learn that at this point in the story, Conan is 20 years old. I took note of that. I think that's funny. That this 20-year-old guy is like this hulking dude with long hair and just murders everyone. He gets captured by slaving pirates after being stranded at sea eating sharks for a while.
That panel of him eating sharks is amazing.
Yeah. There's a great 2-page thing where he's in the hull of the ship. He's basically enslaved, and it's like him waking up and getting knocked.
Losing his mind.
Yeah, falling asleep again. And every other panel is a black panel with the caption there, and I thought that was a cool sequence. And then he fucking picks a lock with a guard's finger bone
Well, yeah, he wakes up and he's like, "I need a bone," and they're like, "Why do you need a bone?" He's like, "It's not important." And then these other guards come down and try to taunt and like pick a fight with Conan. And he breaks the dude's finger, which I'm guessing he just ripped the finger off and then uses the bone to break his shackles. And like we just get this nice little like narrative box going. It was like it wasn't a pleasant experience.
And the captain of the ship turns out to be a serpent man, and so he just fucking kills him, and he takes the treasure, and somehow just through all the chaos the ship just like fucking explodes because everything's going
It
crazy.
catches on fire. They knock over a lantern when he's
Yeah.
fighting the lizard man.
And so now Conan carrying this chest, and it's probably a little heavy, even just the chest itself, before you know what's inside it. And you're supposed to assume that there's treasure inside, so it's probably
Right.
pretty heavy. Conan jumps off holding this chest, and behind him, still shackled to him, is this other guy who doesn't know how to swim. And they just jump into the water. Well, no, they jump into a boat and they just fall through the boat. The boat's broken. And so
Yeah.
then he swims ashore, however long that was, holding this chest in one arm and dragging this guy who can't swim behind him. And
It's fantastic.
yeah, he opens the box and it's just a bunch of sand, but he gets a vision, and that's going to lead into the rest of the story. And then I didn't read the pro story, but the pro story is going to be 12 chapters. So this book will at least last that long. But honestly, unless they go the route of constantly rebooting it, this book probably could last quite a while. I think from what I've heard, the Conan launch has been pretty strong at Marvel, and it's going to be
Well, I mean, it has been pretty strong because what we have is it Conan the Barbarian or just Conan being written by Jason Aaron and
Conan the Barbarian.
Conan the Barbarian, and then we have this, and then our next book, he's joining the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, and he's going to
So
Savage Avengers.
yeah,
All right.
so
Now,
all in on Conan, Marvel is right now.
yeah, I mean, I'm scared that they'll overdo it, but this
I
book
think
was
they're
good.
already overdoing. He's in 3 books, soon to be
Well, yeah,
4.
yeah, but this book was good. I dug it.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know if I'll stick with it though.
Yeah. Avengers: No Road Home, where Conan will make his next string of appearances.
Yeah, so this book spins out of Avengers: No Surrender. It's the sequel, right?
Yeah, it's a 10-issue weekly series because that's Marvel's big thing now.
Yeah, 10-issue weekly series that are inconsistent because there's like 5 people writing it.
Yeah. This is Wade, Ewing, and Zub. Mark Waid was writing the like flagship-ish Avengers book from All New, All Different Marvel post Secret Wars
What was
through.
doing US Avengers, right?
No, it was initially All New, All Different Avengers, and then it was just called Avengers, drawn by Mark Del Mundo.
Okay.
Al Ewing wrote both New Avengers and Ultimates, and then New Avengers was relaunched as US Avengers, and Ultimates was relaunched as Ultimates 2.
Right.
And Jim Zub jumped onto Uncanny Avengers at the very end before that book disappeared.
Okay.
Art here is Paco Medina, and I thought the art was pretty good.
Art's really good.
Obviously, Paco Medina is not drawing 10 weekly issues in a row.
Unless they had him doing this already and they're all done. Yeah, no way this is happening.
There's no way. Unless they started drawing it immediately after Undercover No Surrender was over.
Well, there's one guy that can do 10 weekly issues. It's Bob Q, but he's not drawing this book.
The next Jack Kirby. So the roster here, we have a roster page, which I always like these, like Jonathan Hickman in his Avengers run. I loved his roster pages.
Yep. Do you like those? We're surrounded by Kirby Crackle?
Yes. Hercules, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Spectrum, Blue Marvel, Tony Ho, and Hulk. Tony Ho is from Ewing's Avengers run.
Okay.
the daughter of Jens, of the guy who built Iron Man's armor. I
Oh,
believe.
Jensen.
Yeah. Also,
Voyagers, and then Voyagers from No Surrender.
yeah, and Rocket Raccoon, which I was really worried about Rocket Raccoon being in this book, but as we will get to, I'm not concerned.
No.
So we open with Hercules meeting Rocket Raccoon for the first time ever, which these scenes are like exceedingly rare in Marvel Comics at this point.
Yeah, the first meeting between characters.
And it's kind of fun. I think Herc's characterization is pretty much perfect. I mean, Rocket's is pretty close. Obviously, Rocket's characterization has been influenced by the movies, but it's not as drastic as Star-Lord or Drax. And Scarlet Witch and Dr. Voodoo are in a relationship, which this is not a new thing. It was like a thing that was lightly touched on before, but off panel they're getting more serious. And Hawkeye like talks about the current West Coast Avengers thing, which he's like mentoring, and he like relates it back to the OG West Coast Avengers, and it just made me cringe. I really don't like that book is called West Coast Avengers.
It's really weird having Hawkeye sitting at a table going, "Oh yeah, our social media presence is great."
Yeah.
It's just so out of place.
Hawkeye drinks black coffee, and I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean, isn't it in Fractions Run he's drinking straight out of the pot? So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess it would. And talk about shitty costume redesigns. Vision shows up, and I think he looks
I hate
awful.
this costume. I hate it.
They try and give him like a logo even, which looks terrible and doesn't make any sense. There's just lines everywhere. Like the original Buscema design is amazing.
Yeah. Also, did you feel like Scarlet Witch is drawn a lot younger than she's supposed to be?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's almost just like a different style. She reminds me of like a J. Scott Campbell drawing. But I kind of like it. I don't have a problem with it. But
I hate this so much.
Vision is dying because Hulk hit him on the head in No Surrender.
Okay.
And Hulk, he shows up. He's in the middle of the desert, and he's out of hell. So I think this happens again. Al Ewing is one of the co-writers here. So this happens at some point in the Immortal Hulk series.
Yeah, and thankfully he's here because anytime someone's using Hulk right now, I'm like getting real irked by it because Ewing's clearly doing his thing where the Hulk should be kind of staying in his lane and not be interfered with by anyone else. So,
but it's a lot better that it's great that they do acknowledge what's going on in the series, so you can fit this within there somewhere.
plus the face of the Hulk still looks the same as it does from the art in Immortal Hulk, which I also really like.
But what's happening is night is falling all across the universe, and they like try and explain this, but it doesn't make any sense.
Well, which makes sense for the Hulk to come out because now the Hulk only comes out at night.
Okay, that makes sense. So basically, this story is Final Night, Marvel version.
So Hal Jordan is going to throw himself to restart the sun.
Yes. So Voyager is assembling all these characters that she needs to deal with this. And it's hilarious because she shows up to grab Scarlet Witch. Hawkeye is not needed. He just happens to be there.
He's just there.
But he makes an awkward comment towards the Hulk. And the Hulk basically throws shade on Civil War II.
Yeah.
Which is great. And then like forces Hawkeye to come along just to like fuck with him.
He's like, he goes like, Hawkeye, we don't even need someone as weak as you on this. And Hawkeye's like, well, I'm here. And he's like, you know what? Fine. Just we'll pick you up, but just don't find yourself alone with me, is what he says.
And what made honestly like part of really like the spotlight moment in this is when like they're finally all assembled. Oh, and then they go to get Hercules as the final guy, and again Hercules similarly just happens to be with Rocket, and Hulk is like, "Yo, Rocket, what's up?"
Yeah.
Because Rocket Raccoon's first canon appearance is Hulk 271 from the 70s, or I think early 80s, written by Bill Mantlo, the creator of Rocket Raccoon. And it like made the entire book that they're just acknowledging that issue
Well,
where
the best thing is it happens in the background as
yeah,
Voyager and Hercules are talking. Hulk's just like Rocket, and he's like, "It's like long time, huh?" So I did like that.
if this book was published like on at this point like 30 years ago, there would have been an editor's note saying Hulk and Rocket first met in Hulk 271.
Yep.
And I kind of wish it was there, but it's also cool that there's
Surprised it
still
isn't, considering you have a guy like Mark Waid on this team.
yeah, but it's still just amazing that they're doing this, that they're making the reference. And so Hulk just brings along Rocket as well. And the thing is, this is just Voyager grabbing a team, and the book is called Avengers because a lot of them are Avengers.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very happy to say so far that Rocket Raccoon is not an Avenger.
He's the only person on this team that has never been an Avenger.
Yeah. And that's what I was worried about actually. If Hawkeye or someone had like deputized Rocket Raccoon on panel at the end of this story as an official Avenger moving forward, that I would be upset.
Well, here I mean, this is a side tangent, but who do you think looks worse, Vision or Hawkeye in a T-shirt?
Uh, yeah, that's a close call. I was literally about to say that Clint looks like a stupid shit bag.
I like Wanda's new suit though.
Yep. Yeah, that's the from the James Robinson
Yeah,
series.
that's a really clean design.
And so Voyager takes them to Olympus, and
Where
everyone's
everything's on fire.
and it's Nyx, the goddess of night, and Wanda says her name, so she gets her fingers burst through her face,
Yep.
and that's how it ends. And so it looks to basically be a Hercules story at first.
Which I'm kind of down with.
Yeah, I like it. I love Hercules. I wish he would get like way more consistent spotlight.
I dig this team too. Like it's a fun team.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing is there are so many dynamics here where you have Vision and Scarlet Witch, obviously, you have Hulk and Hawkeye, you have Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch, you have Hulk and Rocket Raccoon, you have Hercules and Hercules and Spectrum were on the Avengers together. And we'll see. I mean, they skip over Blue Marvel and Tony Ho. They don't
They
actually
show up very, very early on in kind of just like an exposition dump scene.
yeah, but I imagine they'll probably jump back into the story later. And then so we had the roster page, and then at the very end we have basically mini profiles slash status quo updates on the characters, which is also really cool. And on Rocket section it says this takes place prior to Guardians #1, which is a little weird because it totally came out like a few weeks after. But I also totally appreciate that it
Surprised we
says
don't have a thing like that for Hulk with Ewing on this creative staff.
yeah, but he's in the desert and he fully said, well, he's like, oh, I think I'm back in hell, so it's implied that he escaped hell. So I think
I'm thinking it has to be right after the Green Door arc, which
yeah,
just wrapped up.
yeah, you could put the editor's note in there or at the very end, but I feel like if you're reading along in Hulk, it's probably very obvious where this takes place.
Which I'm assuming the next issue of Immortal Hulk is going to take place after this whole event's wrapped up.
And Conan's first 616 appearance is in Avengers No Road Home. That's what this is called, right?
Yes.
Avengers No Road Home #6. Conan.
Okay, so
The
more
Marvel.
than halfway through.
Yep. And so that is when Marvel will jump the shark and officially in 30 years not be able to reprint Avengers stories.
Featuring Conan. So the War of the Realms, Savage Avengers will not be able to be reprinted, nor will this.
Yep. And now we have one indie book today.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, we didn't do ratings on these books, but if we had to make a best comic I read of the week, it has to be Criminal #2.
Yeah, I agree.
Not to say anything else was bad. It was just this was just better than everything else.
Well, for me, it was better, but also was like totally bait for what I would be interested in.
Oh no, this is the thing. Like this was the book that was written for you, but also I have the fun made up comics history partially in this, but also I get an Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips criminal story as well.
Yeah.
Which I will say, this is the first time I've ever read a criminal book. I read a little bit of, I can't remember which was the one I read. A little bit of Fatal. That was the first one I read of his. But I've kind of been in this realm of Brubaker's books like this, where I've read all of Gotham Central, which though he co-wrote that, and like that's kind of in this realm of field. But I've always wanted to go back and read Criminal. It's not until like recently that it's been kind of more easily accessible.
Yeah. So this is #2. #1 was a one shot, basically. And this is part of an arc. At least, I think it's maybe just 2 and 3. So whenever that comes out, we may talk about it. There is a fictional comic artist named Hal Crane, and he's going to a small town convention to get a Lifetime Achievement Award. And he specifically asks for one of his former art assistants to be his chaperone and driver for the weekend. And we get lots of history for this fictional artist. It directly references Julie Schwartz, longtime DC editor on Superman and Batman and a billion other things.
Yep.
Had his own reputation.
Coined the term for Justice League, I believe, right?
Yeah. And Jerry Conway is mentioned. Apparently, this artist pulled a gun on him or something like that. And so Hal Crane is just an asshole.
Hal Crane is the comic's worst nightmare.
Yeah. And the whole time I was like trying to figure out like who is Hal Crane and like which creators are they pulling bits and pieces to influence Hal Crane. And at the very end, Brubaker is known a lot for having essays and text pieces and stuff like that in his indie books. And the like first sentence of his text matter was like, "This is not based on anyone real." But
yeah, but some of the stories and altercations are.
Yeah, but it's partially pulled from stuff. And so one of the things that Hal Crane is known for is he created a 1960s cartoon, which is a cult classic.
Which was clearly a take on a Hanna-Barbera show.
Yeah, so the closest parallel here is Alex Toth, who is like known as a master comic book artist, but no one really knows him as that because he didn't do any really prominent stuff, and then he got really involved with Hanna-Barbera and a lot of cartoons. And so this story, the present set story is in 1990, not present, but the story's set in 1997. And so then we get also like even more industry history stuff where at the convention they're noting how publishers are going bankrupt, distributors are imploding, shops are closing, the whole thing's going to crash, but people are still at the con having fun, cosplaying, stuff like that.
I liked how, I guess with Image, you can just, there's clearly copyrighted characters being shown. Like there's a stormtrooper, but like that are just, it's a straight up stormtrooper. But like I'm wondering how they got away with that. But like then there's like other characters that are slightly different, but you know who they're supposed to be, and like the backgrounds of the people that are dressed up.
Yeah, I think it's like they may have just enough license to skirt around it because
I mean, there's very clearly here, I'm looking at it. There's a Slave Leia, there's some Ghostbusters, there's a Hellboy, and I think there's like a Hit Girl.
But I'm not looking at the panels directly, but I feel like those may be just slightly tweaked just enough And the stormtrooper, I think the helmet is covered by captions.
Yeah, it is.
And so I feel like because other than the helmet, stormtroopers are sort of generic, and of course there are multiple designs.
Right.
Um, and if you put a fat dude in a joke Wonder Woman costume, you're not really infringing. That's one of them.
There's a girl who's in a green leafy outfit with red hair. That's clearly Poison Ivy, though.
Yeah. So Hal Crane is scheduled for a panel with Joe Kubert, Will Eisner, and Al Williamson. And he's like, all the old timers, fuck that. And so
He's like, I'm not going to this.
And so his backstory: he was in a car with another major artist, Archie Lewis, and Archie Lewis crashed the car and died. And it's alleged that he killed himself. And so apparently Hal Crane was like a very promising artist and cheery and well loved by everyone. And then he was in this accident, wasn't harmed, but his hero was died, and he's been an asshole since then. But he's still a good artist. And it compares that death of Archie Lewis to famous deaths like Max Gaines, Jack Cole, and Wally Wood. And so Max Gaines, he basically invented the comic book. Not the exact format, but he was one of the early people to make the kind of saddle stitch stapled comic format. And he was a founder of All American Comics, which were the publishers of Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Hawkman, Flash, and Atom. And they were one of the three companies which pretty early merged to become what we know as DC Comics today. And
Comics?
Yes. And Max Gaines died in a boating accident. And obviously, I just said he has a ton of legacy by himself, but his son, Bill Gaines, created EC Comics and eventually Mad Comics after the government kind of fucked over EC. And Jack Cole, referenced here, creator of Plastic Man, did some filling on The Spirit while Will Eisner was in World War II, and known for other things. Jack Cole got in his car one day and shot himself in the head, and was found by a couple of teenagers, and the autopsy determined that after he shot himself, he didn't die for several more hours.
Oh my God.
And before he got in the car, he sent 2 letters, one to his wife and one to Hugh Hefner, who he was actually really close friends with, because following Plastic Man, Cole did some work for Playboy. And no one has any idea publicly what were in either of those letters. So who knows?
After Hefner recently passed away, you'd figure that out, but no.
Yeah, but the thing is, in the grand scheme of things, even though they were close on personal terms, the general
public doesn't know who Jack Cole is.
General public that was interested in Hugh Hefner, they're not interested in Jack Cole.
Right.
And who knows what happened in that letter, 50 plus years later.
Probably doesn't even exist.
And Wally Wood is referenced, and he also shot himself because late in his career, and Wally Wood, the redesigner of the Daredevil costume to make it red,
yep,
creator of the Thunder Agents, major EC artist, and other things. He shot himself because in his later years, he wasn't as respected. He wasn't getting much work. And in quick succession, he suffered from kidney failure and then a stroke. And a side effect of the stroke was he completely lost vision in one of his eyes, which is not a great scenario for an artist.
No.
So he had struggled with depression and alcoholism through his whole life. So he committed suicide.
Right.
And then later on in the story, Joe Orlando is mentioned. He was a major artist for EC. Then he became an editor for Mad, editor for Warren Publishing, which was Creepy Eerie Vampirella. And then he was eventually a VP at DC and was a major editor on stuff like the overhaul of House of Mystery and House of Secrets, all those kinds of horror titles in the 70s. He also edited the innovative Spectre series, Spectre feature, which Jim Aparo drew, and tons of other stuff. And so Hal Crane, he's forging animation cells with shady art dealers to make some cash. Just
Because
cool.
apparently he's always been broke.
Yeah. Well, because like a lot of these artists, he got screwed over on his creations and things.
Right.
And case in point, there's discussion that there's a live action show based on his characters that is in development, and he doesn't know. No one decided to tell the creator of everything. And I think it's notable slash kind of interesting that this live action show that they're supposed to be doing within this story, they're scrapping the male character and focusing on the female character. And the producer of the show, who was the one who really made all the money, is supposed to present him with this achievement award, which just upsets him even more. And the main crux of this plot, as we learn, is that someone stole some of his original pages of art. And so he pistol whips some, like,
He follows the guy into the bathroom and just pulls out a gun and just pistol whips him.
yeah, for a half second, I thought he shot him in the nose. But then it's clarified in dialogue later. And also, this guy that he pistol whips, it's noted that he's like an unknown artist. This is not a real guy, but he's described as being a fill-in artist on Man Thing and Haunted Tank, and also something that doesn't exist.
Right.
And there's irony here because Hal Crane was an art thief back in the day and stole pages from Bernie Wrightson, Jack Kirby, and Barry Windsor Smith.
Yes.
Which he should have held on to those pages that he stole.
Yep.
It turns out his daughter stole the pages and sold them already.
No, I don't think she stole them. She just had them.
Well,
it was given to them by the guy because she said it was fine. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing is like, can your kids really steal from you? And so I think the implication is he's just such a fucking asshole that he would see it as stealing when it's his own daughter.
Right.
And it turns out the reason he hired the main character, this assistant that he didn't care that much about in the first place, is that the main character's father is a thief. And so that the next issue will be when we actually get like more criminal stuff.
Yeah.
With some kind of heist, stealing comic book pages.
This is crazy good. I really, really dig. I mean, I'm continuing this. This is amazing.
Yeah, it literally, like, this issue is literally just porn for me.
I know.
Where it's just like mentioning some comic book history or creator literally every page. And it helps a lot that Ed Brubaker, number one, knows his stuff. Some of that is, Wikipedia knowledge, obviously. Or I'm saying he knows his stuff, but I'm saying you could do that through Wikipedia. But he's also just, a perfect writer. And Sean Phillips, perfect collaborator and perfect artist, and always evolving his style. And the major thing here is that recently, on their books together, they've had Jacob Phillips, Sean Phillips' son, coloring them. And he's relatively new. He did the My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies OGN, which is a criminal story.
When did that come out? That recently came out, right?
Relatively recently. It may have been, I think it was in the fall, maybe the late summer. And I bought that. I read it. It's really good. That has, in some stuff, Jacob Phillips has, like, especially that book, he has a very watercolor kind of style. In this book, he's a little more refined within the lines. But for someone who I don't think he's really done anything outside of coloring his dad on these Brubaker books. He's really good. All the color palette and everything is perfect. It's just a perfect comic. Like, I don't really have anything negative to say about it.
Yeah, it draws you in. The art's amazing. the story is good, the flow is good, nothing drags. You're constantly engaged, and you're left wanting more. So, yeah, I don't think you can make it better. And for me, it's just I'm very excited to read something written by Ed Brubaker again for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do superhero stuff anymore.
Yep. Now, oops. So that's basically everything. I think we said it as we got into it, but favorite book of the week for me, Criminal. For you, Criminal.
Yeah.
So that was everything this week. I would say, based on the stuff we read, relatively strong week overall.
It was stronger than what I thought it was going to be. Like, I remember when we were looking at the books that were coming out this week, I was like, oh, man. I wasn't super excited because the week before that was really, really good, I felt. Like, I thought that was super strong. But no, this ended up being pleasant surprised. I didn't dislike anything this week. I think if I had to choose a worst book of the week, it's probably Wonder Twins, but that book's not bad. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
If I have to go through whoever won this week between the big two of DC and Marvel, I think I might give it to Marvel, considering I enjoyed Avengers a lot more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. Conan was awesome, and then Amazing Spider-Man just continues to be very good. Detective Comics is good. I'm not digging that Flash Batman crossover right now. And then, like I said, Wonder Woman Twins wasn't for me, so I'll give the edge to Marvel this week.
Yep. Now, for the hell of it, as we run, I'm pretty sure, pretty long. Well, let's do a little preview for what we might talk about next week. I'm gonna name some of the major titles, and we'll see whether we're interested in reading them. I would say really the major one from Image is Sharky Bounty Hunter #1, the new miniseries from Mark Millar.
Oh God.
And to my knowledge, it's basically a knockoff Lobo, I think, and it's drawn by Simone Bianchi, or however you say it.
All right. Well,
I might read it. Who knows? Dark Horse has a tie-in comic to the video game Anthem. I don't care. IDW. We could read GoBots #4 by Tom Scioli.
GoBots. What? Those are the Kmart Transformers.
DC.
DC's gonna have Batman because that'll be
DC Batman 65. We'll probably talk about that. There's an Aquaman issue. I don't think it's. We probably won't talk about that. Wonder Woman. Is this the one-off? I mean, not Wonder Woman. Catwoman. Never mind. Damage. This might be the final issue. I'm not sure. High Level #1. I think this is the next Vertigo launch.
Okay.
The book by this is the book drawn by Barnaby Bagenda from Omega Man.
Yeah, from Mega Man.
So we might read that. Justice League #18, one of the Legion of Doom issues.
Maybe we'll read that. I haven't been keeping up with Justice League though.
Naomi #2.
I'll be reading Naomi #2.
Nightwing 57, the new writer coming on. And
maybe we read that. I can see us reading that.
From Marvel, Age of X-Man, Amazing Nightcrawler.
What's happening with that series? I thought everything is like there's going to be a mini series, just Age of X-Man. I guess everything's a one shot.
No, they're all most of them are miniseries. It's a whole separate continuity, like Age of Apocalypse.
Oh God, I just care about Uncanny at this point.
Yeah. Avengers continues whatever it's doing with Blade. Black Widow #2. I don't really care.
Well, No Road Home will have its second issue as well. We'll be talking about that.
Actually, yes, it is on here. Marvel is releasing a facsimile edition of Dazzler #1, which I guess technically could read that, but
it's not a new release.
Yeah. Hulkverine's number 1.
I know you don't want to read that.
Guardians of the Galaxy number 2.
I haven't read number 1 yet, but that can change.
A serious contender, Love Romances number 1.
Ooh, the one of the 80-year celebration books.
And we could get caught up for Old Man Quill number 2.
I don't care about Old Man Quill.
We could also check in on Return of Wolverine number 5 of 5.
I'd rather do Guardians of the Galaxy.
There is also Uncanny X-Men number 12.
I mean, I'm going to be reading Uncanny X-Men because I did like that. I liked the annual and I liked issue 11. I'm sticking on that book.
And Wolverine Infinity Watch number 1.
I want to just grab a bar of soap and wash my mouth out after hearing that. This is a title for a book.
And now from Dynamite, which is a little iffy situation since they are my employer. Mike, if you really wanted to, you could read Crackdown number 1.
Like based on the video game?
Yes, I would not fault you for not reading it.
I've never played a Crackdown game, so I probably won't.
Nothing really from Boom, and we're not going to go through everything else, the non-premiere stuff right now. So some exciting stuff to look forward to next week.
I mean, here, I'll throw this out. For those of you that did watch this show, if there's a book you want us to talk about next week, leave it in the comments section below.
Yes, after the person who says first.
Naturally.
So thanks for watching. Tune in next week, whatever this show is called. Peace.